welcome to the second NRL Fantasy Fanatics podcast. I'm Random, and I'm joined here once again by Welshie.
What's happening, guys?
How you going, mate?
Yeah, very good, mate. A big weekend for me for being Welsh. Grand Slammer, and to be honest, I'm only just sobering up, so it's been a good last couple of days, to be fair.
It's good to know you're sobering up just after work.
Yeah. Got to sneak a couple of...
So, how'd your team go on the weekend?
Well, to be fair, any other round, and I think I scored an 8-4-6, which has me well down on the forum standings. But starting, so many players scored high, which I didn't expect. I still went over how I was projected, but like, three or four people nearly going towards the 100. I had friend out of them lot, but just seemed well behind the rest of the forum, and I can't really pick many holes in my team. So I'll probably be holding firm for now. But
So, no
how did
trades
yours
at all?
go? The two dragons, Lowry and Host, been looking at, but their job role is so up in the air. But until tomorrow, where I'll probably start fiddling around. I know I'll have to make one early if I want one of the dragons because they're first up against the Rabbitohs. But for now, I'm sticking firm. What about you?
I went alright. I got 876, which for me would be a decent score, but it still sees me down in the 4,000 mark in rank, which is just awful. But I did beat you in the moderator league, so that's a nice bonus there.
Twat.
I was high on Totola because he was starting front row forward for the Rabbitohs, and he was just shit. So I'm trading out Totola and I'm tossing Sivo as well. I'm tossing up between Bird, Laurie, and Burns. I'm not settled yet, but I think it'll probably be Bird and Laurie from the Dragons.
Me personally, I need some wing football cover. So Burns, I'd have over Bird just because I'm thinking of holding Holland. But I think Burns looked really, really good. I know he scored less than Bird, but in an attacking Rabbitoh side, I think he will rack some big scores up this year. He was close to busting a few and scoring a few one himself. I'd have him slightly over Bird, but that's two decent trades to be fair. I'm not sold on Laurie and his role.
Oh, no, neither am I, but the fact he came away with 50 and now there's a chance for a prolonged stay there, I'm sort of jumping on board, but there's a good chance I just go with Bird and Burns.
I think it'd be safe for Laurie. There's a lot of people looking at trading him in. Obviously, the hope that he goes back to the bench and still plays about 40 minutes and he has a good PPM. So, you're not going to go too far wrong with him.
Yeah, and he's got that. I think it's a negative B at the moment, so he'll be fine.
Always good to start the season.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off with the our stars, the surprises and the breakouts so far from round one.
I think you have to go for Fafita. He played 70 minutes, and if that carries on, and you haven't got him in your team by round 3, I think you're really missing out there. I'm not sure whether Morris, being the first new coach, wanted his star play his best forward on for more minutes towards the end of the game when it was so close. But if he maintains 70 minutes, he'll be the highest scorer this year. I'd bank that right now.
No, that's fair. But Fafita had a massive game. Another bloke who had a massive game was Friend, which was a big surprise to me because I've always rated him as like that step below the elite hookers, and he just blew everyone out of the water this week.
Yeah, it's your 80-minute hooker. You're always going to go around around the 50 point mark. But what I liked about Friend, he looked like he had a lot of stick last year. A lot of Roosters fans calling for him. He was a bit of a prod at just your tackling. Just to be fair, his service from Dummy off was quite poor as well. But towards the back end and the way he started this year, whether Robbo's had a word, but he looked good against the Rabs. He had a bit of a stick in his step. He was always looking to go forward, and potentially you could be looking at a 55 average if he can keep them attacking stats up. He's obviously not going to have 2 9 breaks or try every game.
All right, so the breakouts for this year for you, or for at least round 1, I should say.
Well, I think just mentioned about Burns, especially this current price point. I really like to look at Burns. Obviously Nakora, looked fantastic. He's not going to score 60 points every week, but I think he's shown obviously the potential now that he can go high and probably upped people's projected score for him.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
have you got anyone else?
just Adam Kieran from the Warriors. He just also posted up a monster score, was kicking goals. He
Decent
was
amount of kick meters as well, which is always good.
yeah. We expected him to sort of take that back seat to fuck who's the other half with them?
Green.
Yeah, yeah. We expected him to take the back seat when he was a dominant playmaker during the trials. So it's good to see him actually step up and play that role.
I was a bit watching the game at the start. I was a bit worried the score was before he scored the try. He did look not a deer caught in the headlights. He started a bit slow. He was just giving the ball off, not attacking the line. But as soon as he scored that first try, you could see the smile come on his face, and he was absolutely fantastic after that. He took on more of the kicking role, and I think going forward, I think you could expect probably about 35. I'd be happy with that, and the cash that he'll make from there.
Yeah, no, he's going to make a good amount of cash just from that 68. So he'll make good money the next 5 weeks.
And a two, which I think are quite well, not a surprise. They're already priced quite high. But I think Moses, 400 odd kick meters with Brown. I think I put something up on the forum. Every time he's kicked for over, I think it's about 12 games over the last 2 years, when he's had a kick meter game of over 300 meters, his average is 47.
See, that's a game I missed, so I didn't. Yeah,
You're going to get. So I think Moses and another person, potentially not breakout. They're well established players, but I think Hunt, if he ends up with this move to hooker more permanent with McInnes going to lock during the game, I think you could really start bumping up the way he runs, scooting from dummy half.
yeah,
A
no,
lot more tackles in the middle. I think he can go back to the days of the 50 plus towards the 60 average. I think.
yeah, no. I don't really have anyone else to add there. Like Morgan was a standout, but I think nearly everyone has him just based on potential.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mahoney did well, but it was only really a try that saved his score at the end of the day.
yeah. He's looking, was it 30s, which is where he was priced. But on another day, the game was a bit stop-start. On another day, you could probably expect another 10 tackles.
Yeah,
I think from Mahoney.
that's my reasoning as to why I've still got him in my team and still starting him off the bench.
You've got McIlwright now who they've signed, but obviously until you see the role and if there's anything happening there, there's no point. There's no need to trade him out. And he has shown the ability, the attacking ability at the end of last year. So he's
Yeah,
definitely a wait.
and he wants the 80 minutes. Not that I'm saying no player would not want 80 minutes a game, but he's come out and said that that's what he wants, and they've signed him long term. I think McIlwrick's just purely cover.
Yeah, pure backup. I think there with the odd 15 minutes if he does get named.
Yeah.
So I don't think it affects anyone's preseason predictions for Mahoney.
All right. So with Milchie's B, as you put him, the god of fantasy stats, essentially. Are there any targets that, or any guys in your books that you've really been looking at their break evens for?
Uh, no one with so much a negative break even. I know Laurie has got one, but I'm not going there with that job roll up in the air. If I was to pick between Laurie and Host, I'd probably go Host, just because he's that much cheaper, and that edge roll seems more locked up than Laurie sticking to the lock. And the other two I had with Bird and Burns, where I had to Burns slightly over just because I wouldn't have to play Sivo or Rava in my starting with fullback.
Yeah, no,
I
I
I
agree
don't think
with
you can
you.
go wrong with any of them.
No, I think Host is the better option out of the two if you don't have either of Laurie or Host, just because he seemed pretty pegged for that position for at least the first 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, definitely roll over potential. I'm not a PPM guy, but Laurie, to be fair, when he's on the field, he has looked like a bit of a monster. But I don't trust him not even this week reverting back to the bench, especially with Sims back next week.
Yeah.
I just don't trust it. I don't want to go there for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's
So
fair.
the weekend's matches, I've Have you picked any players out potentially you've got on your thrown up starting? Who you think might have a good matchup this weekend?
Anyone that's Tedesco, I think bounces back in a big way. It's Manly, isn't it? Yeah, he's got Manly this week, and they were awful last week. So I think he's in for a big game.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd agree with that.
Ponga also, the Panthers didn't impress, and they're still missing Cacao. So I think Ponga, who had a all right score, I think it was close to 40s or something, but lost a chunk of cash, will be good again
Yeah,
this week.
yeah. No, I think he did a lot of things well. He just didn't quite break through like he did last year. But he's going to come into his own. Whether he shifts back to fullback later in the season, the kid's an absolute superstar. So
Yeah,
he's going to find a way. He might not relate into fantasy as much this year.
no, definitely. And if he ends up slotting back into fullback after a couple more unsuccessful weeks in the halves, he'll be a great pickup long term.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are hoping for. To be fair.
Yeah, and
Um,
oh, you're right. You go.
no, carry on, mate.
The only other one that I think will be up for a big game is Arrow. Like I'm expecting him to bounce back heavy against the Sharks. They've got a big forward pack, so I figure they'll play it up the middle, and Arrow just rack on that tackle count.
Yeah, good. I think I'd probably look at a lot of the Sharks against that Titans pack. So for Fifita, obviously, if he plays 70 minutes again, he's probably number one captain choice for me moving forward now. But he has to maintain that role, the 70 minutes. Um, any of the Eels, I think any of the attacking Eels, so Brown, I think, could be in a big game against that Dogs. They've got a lot of players, Napa, uh, Raymond, um, Corey, Harroway, and Era, who would like to fly up the line. And I think a couple of if Moses and Brown attack wise, I think they could be in for a big game.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Um, I pretty much Tedesco against Manny. I think a lot of the Roosters might be in for a big game. I am a bit worried about Radley, like I said earlier, against Tapau. I think he might be in for a big missed tackle count again, which, he, to be fair, this preseason, I wish I'd looked at his scores. I know he averaged over 44, I think he averaged last year when he played decent minutes. But his scores were very Paul Carter-esque, a lot of missed tackles, either scoring in the 50s, 60s or uh, low 30s, 20s, which I don't really go for. But if they rack up a score, Roosters, there's every chance he gets in on some of the attacking play this week, I think.
Yeah. I think we'll move on to the forum questions
Yeah,
and the mailbag from Booze, basically. So this is
yeah.
sort of this is sort of a two-parter from him. Do you feel like with the refs making less penalties overall in the game and it flowing much more nicer, would that have changed your consideration in building your team this year?
It felt like we just picked up from mid-season. I know last year with the amount of penalties that were called for offsides and not playing the ball properly, a lot of fantasy scores were down. I know there's a lot of talk then certainly last year about you know trading guns for mid rangers because it was so much the play would slow down so much that it wasn't giving the bigger players, the more expensive players, chance to rack up their normal scores. But it felt a bit more like the Origin. I think they were just letting play go. If I'd realised that, I don't think it would have played into my team selection much. I
Yeah.
actually enjoy watching the game. I know a lot don't, but I enjoy watching the game flow a bit more like this.
Oh no, I
Um,
thought the game over the weekends, the games I saw over the weekends were great. Just the flow and the pace. None of the stop starting. It
yes,
just flowed nicely.
I know. It's probably 50-50 down the middle. Some people want the rules. Then stop the storm, being only 6 meters back every defensive set. But to watch the game, it's a much better spectacle, and for fantasy, it provides a lot better scores. You're not stopping ball being kicked into touch, another two tackles, and the whistle going again. It does get boring.
Yeah, no, it provides a lot more opportunity. There's more game time, so there are more tackles, and I also think it opens up the game more. You're not having the defensive set get a penalty, roll back and set up again.
No, 100%. Um, do you think, another one from Booze, do you think the weather or the wet weather that was forecast leading up to the round, did it impact on your thinking of how you built your team and where you spent your cash?
No. For me, no. The weather doesn't really take in. Most of my picks are either like they're picks that I expect to take into the round like 5, 6 before I look at trading my cows, and the guns
Yeah,
hopefully are there all year. So it doesn't one game in the wet that shouldn't affect who I'm choosing.
no, 100%. And to be fair, I wouldn't mind someone being able to look back potentially, so Milch, and have a look at if wet weather game scores do affect more than a normal game.
Yep.
I don't think, obviously, on a one off, it'd be nice to know, but obviously, like you said, you're not picking players for a round or 2 rounds. If the weather's is bad, you're picking them to either make you money or you're picking guns long term.
Yep.
So I definitely agree with you there.
This one's from Stew Dog. Your reserve choices for the week. So an example of that is Brown versus Kieran.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to play Brown after picking him up, seeing about the Eels playing the Dogs. Um, I'm considering playing Kerrigan and Brown together.
Really? Because so
Um,
last week I had Brown in my team the whole preseason, and then you were talking about Kieran, and that's sort of why I made the change. And now I can't feel I can go away from it. I can't feel I can safely select Brown. Like he'll be boom or bust for me, where Kieran
yeah,
seems to have a much nicer floor.
normally, and probably I'll always talk about not picking a player um, due to a matchup. But I think if Brown is going to rack up a big one, it's going to be against someone like the Dogs. Like I said, they've got a lot of players who like to fly out the line and try and put on a big hit instead of wrapping up. And I think they're going to obviously target the youngster over Moses. So I think if he can get going early, I think he can potentially rack a big one up. But I wouldn't be surprised by starting both this weekend. A half with decent tackle counts, goal kicking, and just decent general play, kicking me
Yep. The only
as
other
attacking stat to go really.
sorry, you cut out there,
But
so it sounded a bit weird.
you okay? You good to go?
Yeah, no, it's all good. The only other sort of reserve choice thing I can think of is probably Lowry and Host from the Dragons. And I
Yeah,
think we're both more just happy with Host's position in the team.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lowry completely outscore him. But for longer minutes, potential of Lowry. There's been talk of him going back to the bench. I definitely Host is definitely the safer. And another one I thought of was obviously Bear went well last week, decent minutes, decent tackle count. But this week, you got Papali's back on the bench. Um, Playing last round, there's no way I'd risk him over someone. Potentially, you got someone like Ghana, but playing last game with the potential for him to get moved back to the bench. Don't think I'd go there. Even at the thought of a 40-45 score for one of my reserve, I'd happily let him sit on my bench and hopefully make the cash like that instead of risking and playing him.
Okay, I'm comfortable with him in my team. I think he done enough during the preseason. He looked good in the preseason, and then last week he did enough to keep the starting position. I've got him actually starting over Bird and Host at the moment, and I'm happy with him there.
You better hope he doesn't go back for a 50-minute stint then, kid.
Come off right away is my plan.
Oh, it'd be devastating, wouldn't it? Or what would be worse is being happy in your choice and then 5 minutes into the game getting HIA and not coming back on for the rest of it. And that's the last you see of Burr for
Oh,
the
that
next 3-4 weeks.
yeah, no, that'd kill my fantasy season.
2 rounds in and already dipped in the sand.
Oh, I've already started my team planning for next year. Don't worry about that. Danny's going to be back at fullback. He's a instant must-have.
I got one from Captain Ranta here. If you want to do this as a quick fire round,
Yep.
some mid range of value players. Oh, there's a couple of guns in here as well. That had a lot of precision narrative on the forum. And if you think they're a buy, hold, or sell,
Okay.
or a trade in from these. So first up, we got Tapau,
He's a hold. He's a gun. He's not leaving your team. You're holding him all year. If you don't have
100%.
him, don't buy him. He might drop in cash a bit more. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd go with that. You got Radley.
I wasn't keen on Radley in the preseason. If you can trade him out to someone like Bateman, who we haven't touched on really, who just had an excellent score and was just a joy to watch on the field. I'd trade him out. I can see why some people might be tempted to hold him 1 week, but for me, he's one of those guys that I'd be looking to move on.
We've got Holland.
Holland's a hold. Again, Bateman comes into the discussion as a trade target for him, but he played in it was an awful game by the Bulldogs. If they pick up anything this year, or well, this week, he should be all right.
But what I've taken from that is 25 points, which isn't terrible, especially for a centre. When they're getting dicked 46 by the Warriors as well. No goal kicking, 5 missed tackles, is 5 offloads, which is probably an outlier. Probably that cancels that out, but you can't really moan at 25 points from a pure centre as well. I think he'll have plenty of big scores in him still.
Yeah,
We got
and
Bateman.
Bateman, if you can get him, trade him, but don't team up to get him.
So you're saying similar of similar score? Like what about for a Capewell, say?
Um, Bateman's like, isn't he like 600k more?
Yeah, Bateman's around 600. I think Capewell for 430, 440, something like.
Yeah, 443. So you could do Holland and Capewell as a straight trade, and that's something I'd maybe look at. But yeah, no, I don't
What
see
what
there
what
anyone you have to bring in this week.
what would you potential score for Bateman going forward? What do you think he's going to average?
I think he can comfortably average that 40 to 45 mark.
Bateman, you don't think he'll go higher?
I think as the season goes on, um, they played the Titans, so
Yeah,
not world beaters in their own right, but and I think when he comes up against bigger packs like say the Rabbitohs or the Sharks, or even coming up against the Power, it might change things for him.
yeah. I honestly think I'm gonna watch Bateman for the last couple of years. I think he'll move to an edge at some point. I think they'll probably move Papali back into lock and put Bateman to an edge and switch the team up a bit. But I think if he stays a lock, he's a serious trade in. But like I said, it's round one. It's hard to tell. He did get moved straight away, so there's always that. But we'll move on to Maka.
Again, he's another just hold. For the most part, you want to be holding your guns, and Mac is no different. You brought him in for a reason. He didn't quite perform that well in week one, but neither did Cook. So
No, that's right. I think as well. A lot of players, a lot of people on the forum were praising Maka when he scored with 34 points and a half. It was
yeah,
just a disappointing second stint when he completely gassed out, missed a couple of tackles in a row, which completely coupled with no attacking play.
yeah,
I
he'll
think
be
you can
fine.
argue. Oh yeah, 100%. It's round one. You can argue he might make 10 tackles this week, but he might bust the odd tackle or scoot through. It's definite hold for me, and I still think he's going to be a 55-point scorer this year. You got Mahoney.
Again, he's another bloke who I would just hold. If you've got him, hold him, keep him in your team, but don't go chasing him or selling him off. Just because his score was inflated by that try, I think there were like 3 tackle breaks in there as well. So yeah, if you don't have him, don't feel bad you missed out. He could come away with 30 points this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You got out of the 3 Broncos here, Pangai, Offer, and Gillette.
I would love to have Gillette in my team. I would, if you have the capability to buy him, he's an option. But the others, there's I can see reasons to trade off like Pangai because is he on the bench again this week?
No, he's starting this week.
Okay, well,
Is he? Yeah, he's starting prop this week. Lodge is out for 2 weeks.
oh yeah, that's right. I would, yeah, they're all sort of wait and sees for me, other than Gillette, who had a monster of a game, particularly the first half.
Are you surprised he stuck at lock this week, or do you think it's more because of Lodge being suspended?
I think it's more because of Lodge being suspended.
Yeah,
If you've
I
got him,
think
it's great, but
long term, I think he's a lot like Bateman. If he sticks in the road he's currently in, I think you seriously have to look at getting him in because you're potentially looking at a 50 plus average there.
Yeah.
Someone one is already four. I think they're both around the 40 point mark now, priced at. So the only way they're going to go is up. So I'd give it this week to have another look over, and then I'd look at getting them in. I think. And
Yeah.
we've got he's been made to eat his words a little bit here. He's got Bird, Fat uses Trap.
Well, he's in my team because he can do that sidewood shuffle, that Dugan-esque crab walk across the field and get 7 tackle breaks.
Yeah, he got panned a bit, especially when Vunivalu cut in and smashed him last week. He bounced back well for me. He was already scoring well before then. There's a lot of difference between real life and fantasy play. At 40%, I was very surprised. 40% ownership. I think you're probably safer getting him in and just riding his price rises, even if he dips a bit.
Yeah, I
I don't
wouldn't
think
start him.
no,
But if
not
you're
as a
trying
pure
to get
centre.
if you're trying to get off a cow, and you've got most of the other ones, he's a good option.
Definitely
But
low
yeah,
break even.
yeah.
We've got a sorry, mate, carry on.
I was gonna say the same thing. We've got a 2-part question from Captain Ratner, Ranter. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Renter.
Ranter makes the most sense there. Once I got to the end of that.
Yeah.
Are there any cows you'd give up on after week 1?
I wouldn't be giving up on any of the base price wing fullbacks. So Sivo, Rava, maybe Garrick. But as everyone knows, it's hit or miss in the back line. Uh, any sort of crossing line, any try, and you're looking at 30, 35 points. The cash generation starts up nicely again. But the ones, especially the base ones, I'd be looking to get rid of is Brayley from the Sharks. I just can't see enough game time for him. I'm not sure he's starting again this week. It's Eisenhuth at the Storm. Again, little to no game time. There's no one else. I don't think there's any major trade outs. Surprisingly, wasn't any injuries round one. There's
No major injuries that I can think of, or at least none of the
no,
really fantasy relevant guys appeared injured.
not like the Katoa debacle last year, going off, was it for after a 3 or a -3, something like that,
Yeah,
when
no.
everyone had him in their
Oh
teams.
no, there was Sally, but I think he's still on the bench.
Yeah, he's been named. I was quite surprised. He looked like a quite serious arm injury, but he's been named again. I think I think he's a good option if he maintains that lock roll or reverse to the bench after for potentially 40 minutes.
Yep.
That was another thing that surprised me is that I know there was a few injuries to that Panthers pack, but both Gillard and Tamo big minutes. I think they both went over 60. Tamo is someone who's got 92, so obviously he's at a low breaky when people will be looking at him. If he can maintain 50 minutes and in that pack, that bench especially, I think he could actually be a very sneaky buy. I think Payne brought it up, and it made me really look into him this afternoon.
Yeah, no, I think he could average close to that 45, 50 marking, be close to a gun. But whether he can actually just continue the massive scores is a big question for me.
Well, I think normally I peg him say for the next 3 rounds, say 44, and I think he makes nearly 100,000 cash. All he needs is that one big play and that 50-60 score, and he's rocketing up probably after about 4 weeks to 750, 780k, and you're pretty close to getting a gun in. And so, if you want to take the risk in an early trade, I wouldn't be adverse to that. I think that's he's a decent way of going and making some quick cash.
Just on that, another cow that I would look at trading out, and this is probably a big call because it's a starting fullback, but Kahu, I don't think he does enough at the Cowboys to like he'll have a breakout game and have a massive score here and there, but with all the cash cows that are available at the moment, I'd just swap
Yeah,
him out.
he's an awkward player to watch. He's not really doing much. He ticks over sometimes a goal kick in and the odd kick defusal, the odd little break, but he just doesn't look like he's got a tackle break ability. He's running the ball back slow, dumping off the wingers. It's very frustrating to watch. I don't think I'd trade him out if I had him, but I certainly wouldn't be obviously trading him in.
Yeah.
Um, who are your 3 favorite cows to bring in under the 350, 300k mark,
Um,
potentially with low ownership?
so the low ownership thing rules out like Garner, Kieran, Nakora, and stuff like that,
Yeah,
who are guys that everyone should have. Like they should be at 100%
yeah.
ownership.
No, if you're starting to see them, I think you've made a bit of an error there. Probably a rookie. Not expecting these a base price half to score well. It's just silly, really. Even Elgie can do that at some point.
Yeah. So I think the three guys that sort of are that lower ownership are guys that we've talked at depth about already today, and that's Burns,
Yeah.
Bird, and Host for me.
What do you know? Have you got Sally's ownership? I think he could be half decent, but I think if you don't start the season with, especially with that arm injury, I wouldn't be busting my team up to get him in. He's probably worth a shot if you want to jump off a Garrick or a Sivo, if you can't see much in them. But
Yeah, I
there's
haven't
not
looked
much
at
else, to
Sally
be
that
honest.
much just because the injury scares me. And I know he's starting again, and he could be fine and just play out the entire game through it. But
Yeah, no, that's a wait and see. I think potentially I wouldn't mind seeing him have a week or so off, and then seeing what his role is when Kickout is back.
yeah,
Because he's a potential you can jump off a cow in a couple of weeks and jump on a someone base price to potentially make you some more money then.
all right. And the last question for the day: do you wreck your team to get Fafita in, even if you miss out on like cows that are making cash or cut price keepers?
I'm gonna 100% yes. If he maintains that 70 minutes, you have to get him in. You have to get him in. I know PPM normally drops in more minutes, but for someone like Fafita, that an extra 10 minutes on the park can be a potential another 30 points. The kid is an animal, and what it does stop as well, it probably stops him going to the few games where he has under 40. I think it's really, really will bump up his average. I'm not sure he does maintain it. So you might be safe waiting a game or two,
Yeah. See,
but I'd be doing everything to get Fafita in.
for me, you either you start with Fafita or you accept the fact that you're not going to have him until your cows peak. Like if you went into this season without Fafita, then you know you're not going to have him at the start. So you should just accept that essentially for me. And I wouldn't tear my team apart just to get him, unless I've got someone who's seriously underperforming. And that could be Arrow or Tapau, but that could be I would wait until next week to.
If he did maintain a 70 minutes over the what he usually plays 60, would you not can we consider them?
Oh, I can.
Get him in quick?
He's a must-have, but he's gonna be more expensive. But you built your team about like I think most people, especially in the forward pack, because there weren't that many options this year. Like you had people talking about Tolman and Vaughan and stuff like that, but you made that decision to go without the best front row forward. That's no debate, and
Yeah.
one of the best players in the game. That's just
No,
like people who went without Cook.
yeah, 100%. I can see that. I just think his role. I don't think nobody expect. Well, there was a bit of talk. He went through the 80 minutes and he in the All Star, and one of the trials he played 70 minutes. So there is form there for him to maintain it. I was happy for him just playing his normal role, but I honestly think if he maintains them sort of minutes, you have to get him earlier because he's going to make another 100k. So that's gonna cancel out any extra money your cows might make trying to get him in. The only way I wouldn't look at it is if be mindful of players like Crichton who are obviously falling in cash now and finding a way to get them in first when they're at their lowest price point over
Yeah,
waiting for Fafita to rise.
and I wouldn't be holding on to dead guns. Like I, Totola could definitely bounce back this week, but if I've got guys that I'd rather shift out of my team, I wouldn't be moving heaven and earth for Fafita.
No, I think that's yeah. I think we both. I think you're. I. The only reason I'm saying to move him is because of the minutes thing. If he reverts back, I'd be happy to wait. But if they get them extra 10 minutes on the park for me, I'd move him. I'd get everything to get him in.
Yeah. And that's the last of the questions we have this week.
I think next week we're definitely going to have to potentially get a guest in, maybe someone who is either struggling or doing well and again talk about their team. So potentially can help me out anyway.
Yeah, no, we gotta get someone in that makes us look good. So if you're like doing bad, Wolf
Let's get our
King, we're looking at
Arsenal
you.
filth in to make us look good.
Oh no, Wolf King's down there. I hate to dig the boot in, but he's also I think he got like 700 something this week. More, all right. Wasn't gonna laugh at him, but more than happy to have him on board as long as he scores less than me this week.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of it. We need someone to laugh. We need to get someone in to laugh at,
Yeah.
and potentially someone in who can help us out. I think would be pretty decent as well. Because after this week, we're sticking with Radley, Holland, and Tola. I could be crying next week. To be fair,
Yeah, so if you're keen and wanting to jump in and stuff, just either post up on the forum or send us a message through the forum, and we'll try and sort something out.
winner.
All right,
Let's get
we'll
him
see
in.
you guys next week. Hopefully, maybe we'll see.
I catch you later.